Hey YouTube, it's Cutt here, and we're bringing you another one. So, I am excited to finally do a live tutorial breaking this all down. Okay, so you're gonna, oh, this is more in my face than I wanted it to be. We need to work this all through. I'm gonna be showing you guys how to do shading. So I'm gonna switch over to my iPad, and then we can start working through the process. So I want to show you how to get from this to this. Okay? I'm going to show you how to get from that to that. So you see how blank and bland and then detail. All right? So shading is not as hard as it seems. Like shading seems to be harder than really is. But there's a simple way to understand it, and I want to walk through that. Okay, so I made a little thing. I'm going to show you 3 different types of shading techniques. We're going to start with the most simple, basic way, which is airbrushing. Then we're going to go over to cell shading, which is my favorite way of shading. You'll see a lot of that here on the side. And we'll also do pencil shading, how to build up that texture with pencil. That makes sense? That makes sense. Okay. Now, let me just move this over. So, first we're going to do, now, this is what my challenge is, my handwriting. So I can draw really good, but my handwriting is not. It's not doing. Okay. So, and my spelling, what in the 3rd grade is going on? So I have it written here, so if I ever get a little lost with my spelling, I can just look on over to the left. Okay, so we're gonna first do soft. I also want to try the graphic design form of writing. Soft shading. Graphic design people like to write in all caps. Okay, I like to write in chicken scratch. It's just easier that way. Okay. So we're going to try first soft shading, and then I'm going to show you all the, what's happening, right? So the first thing you need to do before you start shading is know where your light's coming from, right? So here's my light source. I have a light, well, I have other light source too, but that's a whole nother conversation. But I have my main light source right here. So wherever the light is, the shading goes the exact opposite direction. Okay, so if the light's here, the shading is on the left side, right? If the light's here, the shading's on the right side. So literally the shadows are on the exact opposite direction of the light. Now, the best way to start is with the dark and then build to the light, but there is a method where you do the opposite, but that's a whole nother video. Now, what I'm going to do is inside of this layer, I'm going to do a clipping mask down, and I'm not going to take, now we're not doing color. We're just doing shading, just so you can understand. I'm not going to take black. I'm not going to go all the way down to black. You almost never really go all the way down to black, even though we're dealing with the shading. But this mid-tone gray, right, I'm going to color pick it, and I'm going to get like a darker, like darker gray, but not black. I'm also going to an airbrush. And what I'm going to do is, I know the light's on the right, which means the shading is on the left. And I'm just going to start bringing in those shadows. And you'll start to see how this is becoming a thing. Like it's starting to be more 3D and not this flat object. I'm going to go to the erase tool, grab that same brush, bring down the opacity a little bit, and just back it up a little bit, and you can see that I'm starting to build up that texture because the light is coming from the right, the shading is coming from the left. Okay, so now I'm like, it's not really dark enough, so I want to go a little bit darker, leaning into the black a little bit more, making my brush a little bit smaller, and I'm starting to build the ambient occlusion. The ambient occlusion is like the darker light that's where the base of the object is. So any crevice where it gets darker, That's the ambient occlusion. So I'm just kind of building that up a little bit more. It's going to be deeper at the bottom. And it's real subtle, but it makes a big difference. Okay. I'm going to soften this up a little bit more. So now you can see, right? It's starting to build that round shape that we're looking for. Okay. So now I'm really liking this. I don't really feel much of a difference that really needs to happen here. So now what I'm going to do is underneath, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take I'm just going to take a hard brush like this, and I'm just going to draw a circle underneath. And this is the cast shadow. So this is the shadow that the circle is making on a surface. Obviously, that shape changes depending on every circumstance. But in this case, right? Now, obviously, it would not be this black. In order for a shadow to be that black, the light has to be crazy bright. Like, it would have to be like, and even then, I'm trying to figure it out, but I think if a light is that bright, like overwhelmingly white, like where it takes over every darkness, the light that would bounce around it would consume even the shadow. So it would be a really, really light shadow, but I'm not really sure if it like bounces in. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is just lower the opacity for this circumstance. Just lower it down a little bit like this. And then what I'm going to do is kind of just erase a little bit of the edge, because as the shadow comes out, it's going to start to soften. I'm also going to blur it a little bit, just a little bit, just so it has a little bit more realism. Okay. Oops. Okay, so we're building up. We're building up the shading, right? So it's a little bit dark there, and now we're gonna start adding the highlights, because all the dark is pretty much done. I do want to get a little bit richer, with I'm on the wrong brush here, with the shading, right? A little bit richer down the base. Boom, right? So now I make a new layer. And we're going to do the same thing, but opposite, right? We're going to go the other spectrum. Now we're going to the highlights. So we had a mid-tone, we made the shadows, and now we're making the highlights. So once again, at this moment, I'm not going to go straight to white, right? I want to just go a little bit above, like maybe about here. And bring my brush down a little bit. And just kind of build up that light a little bit. Remember, we know the light is coming from the front left of this object. It's the left of the object. It's right when I'm looking at it, but it's the left of the object. And it's kind of front. It's not really like profile. It's not behind it. It's front left. And you'll come to find that a lot of filmmaking, that's a good setup of lighting, because it's natural to see the shading on faces, but that's a whole nother thing. We starting on the basics, okay? We ain't getting into faces and all that jazz, okay, right now. But right now, I just want to start off with the base. So there you go. Already, we're starting to feel, honestly, if you wanted to, you could stop here. If you stopped here, it wouldn't be wrong. But now you're missing certain things that makes things look a little bit more realistic. And it also isn't explaining much. Right now, it just kind of looks like a clay ball. And it's not even fully right yet, but it only kind of looks like a clay ball. If we want to go and change up the textures, you need a few other elements. So this is like the base. You got the shadows, you got the highlights, and you got the cast shadow. Boom, we have a ball that's sitting here. But now we need some other stuff, okay? So now I'm going to do another layer. Okay. And now I'm going to take that same, actually I'm going to take the mid, like around here, that mid-tone color, lower my brush, and inside of the shadows, even smaller than that, lower, smaller, we're going to add, I need a softer brush. And a little bit brighter. There we go. So now what I'm doing is creating that reflective light. Not that much. A bit more. Building up that reflective light, that bounce light, right? So reflective light or bounce lighting is the light. So okay, this is my object. This is my object. I don't have a child, but I bought this for my baby book to take pictures. This is my object. The light's coming here. The light's coming here. This is where the shading is. That means inside of that shading, if it's hitting on a surface, when that light hits, it's bouncing here on the surface and bouncing back up to the object. So, and that can happen with color. That can happen with lighting. So what we're doing is mimicking that. We know that the light is coming from the left, right, well, in this case, the top right, then the light should be bottom left. Okay. So now the ball has a little bit more like shine to it, right? A little bit more shine to it, but it's still not like shiny. It's still a matte ball, right? It's still a ball that's matte. But this is a good like base stopping point. Like, boom, I got a ball. I did shading. Like this is a little bit more like in the spot, right? But now we got to take it to the next level. The next level is the best part. Okay, so everybody likes shadows and stuff, but the highlights, y'all, that's the key. The highlights is what takes it. Okay? So let's do that. Now, we can be as bright as we want to be, okay? Because we're dealing with the highlights. And what I'm going to do is go back to my my quick draw thing here. And some of these brushes, I have packs. You can click the links in my bio and it'll take you to go to jcutt.com and get the digital packs of custom brushes that I use constant prepared for you. So I'm going to take a brush like this, and remember the light is coming according to the object, it's top left. On our viewing is from the top right. So that means the highlight is the most poignant or most peak part of the object, right? It's the peak of the object. It's the closest to the light, so it's the brightest part of the object, and that's why it stands out so much. So now I'm just taking and just adding a light source. This is saying that there is a light source over there, right? And now it's reflecting onto this. Now, I think a better thing would be to show like how reflective this object is to make this a little bit bigger. Take the erase tool that's on the soft brush and just erase some of that. And what I'm going to do is smear it a little bit with the smear tool and just kind of soften up the edges of the highlight just by smearing. Okay, so we can go that route. We can do the simple boom like that. And already it's starting to feel a little bit more shiny, right? Now, there's another thing that I like to do, and every object and everything doesn't need it, but that would be a rim lighting. So what I'm gonna do is clip this. Oh, it is doing it. I'm gonna bring it down to here. And what I'm gonna do is just make a rim light. If you hold it, you can get a better circle. And what I'm going to do before I do that, just so we can kind of see a little bit better, is put a little bit of darkness behind it. Because off the white is a little hard to see. You know, let's give it a little bit more texture than that. There you go. Just add a little bit of adding a little bit of texture here. Okay. I'm gonna go back here, make it a little bit brighter. And then I'm gonna take this eraser tool and just kind of, and that's rim lighting, right? Okay. So that's pretty much the whole shebang. Okay, when it comes to this type of shading. So if I write it out, I'm gonna try to write this thing out, y'all. Because y'all know my handwriting is not the best. Okay. So first you have the highlights. Oh, see, look, this one. Oh, that was right. Okay. The highlights. Okay. And then you have the, I also want to put the light source. Right? So let's say it's the light source. So you have the light source. Then you have the highlight. And then you have the midtones, which is pretty much here. Okay. Then you have the, let's put it here. Then you have the core, oops, shadows, which is pretty much this darker area. But then you have ambient occlusion. Okay, I'm just gonna put occlusion. How do you spell that? Okay. Ooh. Oops. Oops. Okay. And then you have, okay, then you have the reflected light. So we're gonna do here, or I'll put bounce. Oh wait, no. The proper term is, oh, they kicked me out here. Hold on, you guys. A good thing is too, I figured everything all out, because my last live, woo, I was struggling, but I found a good situation and figured it all out. Okay, so we're doing the reflected light, which is here. Okay, then you have the rim light. Oops. And you have the cast shadow. Boom. I did it. Writing is not, it's not it. Writing is not it for me, y'all. And feel free if you have any questions in the comments, Go ahead, put them. I can answer them as we go along. So I wanted to start with the more detailed one because it answers all the principles clearer, whereas the other areas we're about to go to don't answer it that clear all the time. So I just wanted to make that clear. So now the next one we're going to go to, okay, is cell shading. Cell shading is probably my most go-to form, and you can see, boom, there's a piece right here on the screen, cell shading, like literally, boom. My 3D vision is off, but you sure broke it down proper, Professor Cutt. Thank you. I'm trying. Okay, so now we're gonna try. Let me see if I can move that over a little bit. Oops. There you go. Move that over. Okay. So, and we're not going to write all those things again for the other ones, but now we're going to go to cell shading. So cell shading, different principles. Okay. So we're in here. All right. I'm going to reference this real quick. I want to grab that same. Okay. Remember, we're still doing midtones. Reference it. I'm going to fill it in. Boom, unreference. Now, this is easier, but there's still things you need to do, okay? Now, we're going to go to clipping mask. Now what I'm going to do, when it comes to cell shading, yeah, you can pick the color that you want for shadows, but it's better to pick an overall color if we're doing color and then change the opacity or change the mode. But because we're dealing with just black and white, we're not going to show the mode change and all that. I'm just going to pick the colors, pick the tones. So we have the midtones. We want to go with a deeper gray for the shadows, right? And what I'm doing, I'm going to turn this off for a moment so that we can, oops, let me put this on a different thing. Oops. All right. Cut, paste, there we go. I'm going to do that. All right. So we have this like mid-tone gray. We're going to get a little bit darker like here. Yeah, it's good. And what I'm going to do is take a more clean brush, right? Or inking pen. This is my go-to pen. I call it the just in case pen on my iPad, like just in case I delete it because it's all over the place. But if you get the J-Cut Pack 1 on jcut.com, it's called J-Cut inking pen. So it's a little bit more custom because I felt I need a little bit more weight and a certain look. So there's a few other brushes in there as well. But over here, it's called the just in case pen. Now, same principle. We know the light is coming from, in our point of view, top right, but it's the object's top left, right? That means the shading has to be the opposite. It has to be the bottom left. So now I'm just going to hold this area, and what I'm doing is just filling it in. Boom. Already, we're done. We're done. We're done. We don't need to do anything else. We're done. Now, so now, same thing underneath. I'm going to make a circle. Okay. Fill it in. Let me raise it up a little bit. Oh, flatten a little bit. So two. Okay. I want that to be a little bit lighter. Okay. All right. So now we got that first base of shading. Cell shading is, as you can see, it's quicker. Like we were able to express what we want to get across without having to do all that detail. And that's probably why I go to shading, because I'm a real lazy artist. I've come to terms with it. Like I just be like, all right, what's a way to do it, right? Until I have to do it, because I could do it, but I'd be like, do I have to do all that? You know what I mean? Like I don't be wanting to do all that. Okay. So we have that part. What I'm gonna do is do a highlight, not a highlight, because we have a mid tone, but I want to do a high mid tone, or like a lighter area. I don't know the proper term for it. So what I'm gonna do is grab this color. I'm gonna go a little bit, like a little bit. I might even lower that opacity. And instead of doing that crescent moon shape, I'm gonna pull it from here. And fill that. No. Let's do more like this. Because remember, the light is coming like. Yeah, that feels a lot better. I'm gonna manipulate that a little bit more. A little bit like that. Boom. What I also want to do is go back to that shadow layer and just kind of on the edge, let some of that light is starting to peek in, right? Boom. Okay. And then we go to the white again, clip it down, and same thing. Put some light here. Okay. Do another layer. I'm going to do same thing for the rim lighting. It doesn't really need ambient inclusion, but if we want to do a little bit of it, we could do this, and make it a little bit darker, and then do like a base area like this. Just to kind of mimic that. I'm gonna go a little bit darker than that. Not quite necessary, but there you have it. So that's a simple, I'm gonna put this under here, way to do cell shading, right? Now this is a circle. Circles are not as easy as other shapes because circles don't have those flat planes, but here we are, right? Here we have it, okay? And this is like a base way. There's a more artistic way of doing it, but I'm just showing you the base way of getting the same results, but in a flat way. Now, all right, now we're gonna do go on over to pencil. Okay, pencil shading, y'all. All right, so this one takes a little bit longer than the middle one, but probably not as long as the whatever you call that, the soft shading. So now we need, oops, let me just put it on this layer. So now we need, what are we doing? Oh, pencil shading. Almost ran off there. Moving it over a little bit. All right. Now, inside of that, I did this as a base, but I'm going to lower it because we're not going to use this ink circle. I just need it as a base. And what I'm going to do is take the pencil. So I have a 6B pencil. So in school, we use 6B pencil a lot because it's thicker, it's more you can do, it's more you can work with. But all the pre-made pencils that was in it was all like super thin. So I kind of like adjusted it to be a little bit more how I want. So that's also in Cutt Pack 1 if you go to jcutt.com. So what I'm going to do, I don't have to worry about the circle being perfect because if you just hold and click, it'll allow you to make a perfect circle. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is erase a little bit of that edge where the light is going to be. So now I can turn this off. Need it. I don't need it anymore. Okay. About the pencil shading. Now this brings me back to the old days. Okay. So obviously you're not dealing with color. What you're doing is dealing with shading. Now there's so many different ways to do this pencil shading, right? It could be stippling, where it's just a bunch of dots. I can show that another time. It could be cross hatching, but I'm gonna do a little bit of a mix of cross hatching and like building up the colors and things like that, but not exact cross hatching. Okay, so this is a little different. I know the same thing, which is the light's coming from the top right? But we don't have shading to help us here, right? So I'm just kind of building up a little bit of a sketch of what I want to do, right? And what I'm doing now is building up those layers. And remember, there's no right or wrong way, because there's so many different ways to do it. But it's just by understanding all those principles, right? And what I'm gonna do, if you turn your brush to the side, you can get that I need a bigger brush. Let me see. That pencil-like feeling, where you get that, where you put the pencils to the side and kind of build up. So I just wanted a little bit of a structure first. Okay. Okay. And I'm just building it up. Building it up. Oops. And you can see it. I got more focus on this one because it's more of a process. It's more of a process. But it's all the principles are the same. It's about realizing, like, okay, I'm building up that same idea. I don't know why I got so like crazy with the first. I think I was gonna go more ink like. Oops. But when I decided I want to go a little bit more of the side pencil, I'm like, all right, I can incorporate them both. Right? I'm going to take this out. Like that. And you can see I'm going back and forth from pencil to eraser, right? Oops. And the thing about art, it's all like a what do you call it? Or how do they say it? Trust the process type of thing. Like in the beginning, you're like, okay, what is going on? But then over time, you start to I think my service must be a little slow that it keeps cutting. There we go. Okay. And just kind of building that up. And remind you, this is not like, I mean, there's cross hatching, there's stippling, you know, there's so many different ways to build up texture using pencil, right? Let me take that back. Okay. And what I want to do now is take this. Do that. Okay. So, there you have it. Let me take this off for a second. So these are some ways of shading. Some basic, simple ways to shade, right? So you have the soft shading, the cell shading, and the pencil shading, okay? And I will tell you, oh, I spelled pencil wrong. I'm looking like, what is up with that? Because y'all know I can't spell out here. I'm like, something is, it's because I wrote cell over there. Is that right? Why does it look different? Okay, yeah, that's right. Anyway, but here's the look. I'm like, I can't write, but I can draw though. Okay, then. So don't try to come for me. But anyway, so that's the process. So I'm definitely gonna be doing a lot more tutorials breaking things down. The one that's like really on my head that I really want to do is clothing. Like how can you draw different type of clothing onto a body, like, you know, shirts or a scarf or a hat or whatever. So that's gonna be fun. So I'm gonna build like a base model and then show how we can do different clothing. So I really want to do that. I also want to show you how to do makeup on a character, because I struggled with that back in the day, but then I watched a lot of makeup tutorials. I'm like, oh, it's just painting. And once I realized that, I was like, oh, I know how to put makeup on a character. So that's a whole nother thing. So there's a lot of things I want to do to show you technique, but I really wanted to start with something that's a little basic, one that I felt like I could teach simply, and also that I think you guys will enjoy simply as well. So I'm really excited to start to do more tutorials. So I'm gonna do live tutorials a little bit more, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, push that notification button, because I'm gonna keep bringing this stuff to you guys. I'm gonna keep bringing it. That's it.